Starting in the Gemara on Daf Nun Hey Amid Beis, a few lines from the bottom, where it says Minalon. From where do we know the halacha of Breida regarding Rabbi Yehuda's opinion? So the continuation of the Gemara here is what Rabbi Yehuda said before regarding the shofris in the Beis Hamikdash, and that they had 13 shofris there, but what they did not have is a shofar. This is a box that they placed money into it for the karbanis chayva that are brought for the oila and achatos, for azav and azava and so on. And the reason is that the Gemara concluded here, because what happens if the owner dies and now you have mixed in the money over here from this person that died, and you can't use any of the money anymore for any karbanis, because the money of a person that died can't be used and it's mixed in with everything else. But the Gemara suggested just take out that amount for the chatos, for this person that died, and we should say that huvra radava, that now it becomes defined that this money belonged to that person, and then you throw that out and the rest you can use. So the Gemara said, no, you can't do that, because Rabbi Yehuda holds ein breida. You can't take out the money now and say that retroactively it's clarified that this is the money of that person. So here the Gemara is going to bring us the source where we see that Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is ein breida. So the Gemara, Minalon, where do I see that Rabbi Yehuda does not hold of breida? Is it from the following Mishnah? So this is a Mishnah that says regarding wine that Trumas and Maisris were not taken from it. So a person buys wine from the Kutiyim. So this wine, no Trumas and Maisris were taken of it yet. As Taisus over here explains, even though usually the Kutim are Makayim mitzvahs da'iraisa and they should have been taking this Trumas and Maisris, but that's only if they're using it for themselves. If they're selling it for someone else, they're not going to take the Trumas and Maisris. And Rashi here says that usually there's a gzeira not to use the wine of a kuti, but this is the story that the Mishnah is saying before that gzeira took place. So now you want to use this wine. And it's Erev Shabbos and Chashecha, it's Erev Shabbos right before night, and you don't have any place where to pour any Trumas and Maisris that you're going to take out of this barrel into. You have no other kalim, no other vessels. So how are you going to take your Trumas and Maisris in time to be able to use it for Shabbos? The Gersa in our Gemara is Erev Shabbos and Chashecha. In other places where this Mishnah is mentioned, it does not say Erev Shabbos and Chashecha. The same thing could be any time you have this wine, you want to drink it, but you don't have any keli to take out the Trumas and Maisris from this barrel. So what do? Oymid Vaimi stands and says as follows. Shnei lugin, 2 lugin of this wine. So we're talking here about a barrel that has 100 lug of wine. So 2 of those lugin, shani yosid lahafrish, that I'm going to separate, harehein truma, that will be truma. Because the amount of truma that you give, that you can give a 40th, or echad me arbaim, echad me chamishim, or echad me shishim, and the average amount is echad me chamishim, which for 100 lug will be 2 lug. So he says that 2 lug that I'm going to give is going to be truma. It's still in the barrel, mixed in with all the wine, but I'm going to give it later, that should be truma. That's the truma. And then he says, asara meiser, 10 should be meiser. So it's actually not exactly 10, because 2 was separated for truma already. So it's not 10, it's going to be less than 10, because you're taking a 10th from 98 lug right now. Or according to Rashi, asara meiser means a 10th. A 10th will be meiser rishon. And then Tisha, so now you have only 90 lug left in the barrel. So 9 of this 90, another 10th, will be Ma'aser Sheni. And then in addition to that, Umeichel, he's going to be Meichel. What does Meichel mean? So Rashi says, this Ma'aser Sheni that he says that he's going to designate in this barrel, so he could not take other money and desecrate that Ma'aser Sheni that's in the barrel on this money. And the money is then going to be brought to Yerushalayim, like it's always done with Ma'aser Sheni. You don't necessarily carry up the fruits itself to Yerushalayim, but you exchange it with money that will be brought to Yerushalayim. So therefore Rashi says, as much as possible, you want to try to do it, get it done fully, to get the Maisris onto the money that's going to be taken to Yerushalayim. And then the Mishnah says, V'shayse miyad. You could immediately drink from this barrel, even though the Trumas and Maisris are all mixed inside, but eventually, after Shabbos, or whenever you find kalim to take out this Trumas and Maisris, you'll take it out, and then L'mafreya will say, whatever you took out, it's now defined that this is a Trumas and Maisris. So Rab Meir's opinion is based on the concept of Breida, that when you take it out later, it's Huvrar L'mafreya what the Trumas and Maisris are. just regarding the word meichel, Tosfos says a different shot. Tosfos says that you cannot go and exchange the Ma'aser Sheni for money at this point yet, because it's not really Ma'aser Sheni yet, because he says osid lahafrish. He's going to separate it later after he takes it out of the barrel. So it's not yet done. So how could he exchange it for the money? Therefore, Tosfos says, you read it, Umeichel v'shoisen, he begins drinking miyad immediately. It doesn't mean to be mechalel, like Rashi says. The Gemara continues, Rab Yehuda, Rab Yosi, Rab Shimon, Oisrin. These three Tanoim, they ask to do this, and the reason is because they say, Ein Breida. You can't go and take out later and say that what you took out later, now it's clarified that that was the Trumas and Maestras. So therefore now if you're eating it, you didn't take the Trumas and Maestras yet. Alma, so what do I see from here? Ein Breida, that according to Rab Yehuda, Rab Yosi, and Rab Shimon, they hold that there's no Breida and therefore you can't do this. So this is our raya, that Rab Yehuda's opinion is Ein Breida. So the Gemara says, no, mimai, how could you bring a raya from there? Dilme, shani hasam, there it's different. Kidiktoni taime, as it says clearly there, the reason of why Rab Yehuda, Rab Yosi, and Rab Shimon say you can't do this. Amr loy Rab Shimon, Rab Meir, that is, they said to Rab Meir, how could you allow a person to rely on the fact that he's later going to take out the Trumas and Maasros? Don't you admit that there's a problem here? Shema yivka anoid, maybe this barrel will burst, and then he'll have no more wine left over to take the Trumas Maasros from it. V'nimtza sheiset tzvalim l'mafreya. And it'll come out that he drank from this barrel, expecting to be able to take the Trumas and Maasros later, but the barrel burst, and now he has no wine to take his Trumas and Maasros. So he drank from this barrel without taking Trumas and Maasros. So the reason why Rab Yehuda, Rab Yosi, and Rab Shimon are chayshish and don't allow you to do this is not because they don't hold of the concept of breida. You could use it. You would say that this breida, that you would take it out later, and lamafreya, this would be the Trumas and Maasros. But there's another issue here. How could you rely on the fact that he's going to take it out later? Maybe the barrel will burst. And Rab Meir responded to their question and said, if and when it bursts, then we'll worry about it then. In other words, Rab Meir is saying, I'm not concerned about such a thing happening. To be worried that the barrel will burst, that's not likely. So therefore, we could rely on the fact that we'll be able to take the Trumas and Maasros later. So we see that the basis of their machlekes is not about whether yesh breida or ein breida. It's about this gzeira, whether I'm concerned that the barrel will burst and he won't be able to take out the Trumas and Maasros later. In fact, Tosfos here says this is so simple and obvious because this is the reason that it actually says that it's a wonder. How did the Gemara even think of proving from here, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that his reason is because ein breida? This is clearly the reason that it says that they said to Rav Meir. So Tosfos says the Gemara in the beginning was thinking that even though he said the Brisa says this reason that maybe it's going to burst, but that wasn't the main reason because it's not really a very strong concern. Right now you have the barrel of wine here. Why would you be concerned that it's going to burst later? So therefore the Gemara thought that probably the real basis for their shitta why it's asa to do this is because we're not going to rely on taking it out later because ein breida. You can't clarify retroactively what is your Trumas and Maasros. But the Gemara answers, no, this is the basis of their machlekes, whether we're concerned that the barrel will burst or not. So the Gemara brings a different source that Rabbi Yehuda holds ein breida. Elo miditani ayoy, from something that Ayoy taught. The Tani Ayoy taught the following halacha, and this is regarding Erev Tchumen. Rabbi Yehuda said, Ein adam masne al shnei dvarim ke'echad. When you put your Erev Tchumen, you cannot make a condition in two directions at the same time. So the halacha of Erev Tchumen is, you're living in a city, and you want to be able to walk 2,000 amas from the end of the city in one direction, let's say to Mizrach side. So you place down food before Shabbos in that place, in that direction, and you're able to walk from there 2,000 amas in that direction. So now, if a person wants to put an Erev on two sides of the city, he's going to put food for an Erev Tchumen on the Mizrach side of the city, and food on the Ma'ariv side of the city, because he's not sure which direction he wants to go. And then tomorrow, on Shabbos itself, he's going to decide whether he's going to use the Erev going to the Mizrach, or he's going to use the Erev going to the Ma'ariv. And they can't be used together. If you're using the Erev going to Mizrach, so then your 2,000 amas additionally goes in that direction. If you're using your Erev in Ma'ariv side, so then you get the space in that direction. So he's going to decide tomorrow, he's going to make a condition, he's going to put down the Erev, and he's going to decide tomorrow which side is he going to use the Erev. So he said in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, you can't do this. Ella, when could this be done? Im ba chacham lemizrach, eruve lemizrach, lemayrev, eruve lemayrev. If there's a chacham that's going to be coming for Shabbos, and he's not sure where the chacham is coming, is the chacham coming to Mizrach, or is the chacham coming to Ma'ariv? So then he could put down the Erev on both sides, and he could decide if he wants to use it on Mizrach side or he wants to use it on Ma'ariv side. Aval lekan ulekan loy. If it's a different case, if you have a chacham that's coming from Mizrach side, and there's a different chacham that's coming from Ma'ariv side, so they're coming from both sides, and now you didn't decide yet which Erev you want to use. And tomorrow on Shabbos, you're going to decide if you want to go to learn with this chacham on Mizrach, or you want to go to the other chacham on Ma'ariv to learn with him. So that you can't choose tomorrow on Shabbos because ein breida. We're not going to say tomorrow on Shabbos that now that you chose to go on the one side, now retroactively the food that you placed down before Shabbos, that was your Erev. The Erev has to be placed before Shabbos. Can't be placed on Shabbos itself. You have to be kind of shvisa in that place before Shabbos comes in. Now you're going to decide tomorrow which side you want to use, and then we would say that retroactively, when you placed it down before Shabbos, that was your Erev. Ein breida, we don't say that. So therefore you can't decide on Shabbos itself if you want to go with the Chacham to one side over the Chacham to the other side. But now the question was asked on this, what's the difference here between the two cases that are mentioned here? What's the difference that lekan or lekan deloy? If the case is that there's a Chacham coming from Mizrach side, there's a Chacham coming from Ma'ariv side, and you want to decide on Shabbos itself which side you want to use, so that I say you can't. The ein breida. You can't say on Shabbos itself that I choose now, and retroactively this clarifies which one was my Erev that I put yesterday. If so, the same thing. LeMizrach or Ma'ariv, Nami, ein breida. If I want to decide on Shabbos regarding one Chacham that's coming, and I don't know where this Chacham is coming. Is this Chacham coming to Mizrach, or is this Chacham coming on Ma'ariv? And right now, the Gemara understands that the case over here is that the Chacham did not arrive yet, and he's going to arrive on Shabbos. And I don't know if this Chacham is going to be coming to Mizrach, or he's going to be coming to Ma'ariv. And I'm going to wait to see tomorrow where he's going to come to, and then I'm going to go to the Chacham. So the same thing over here. How could you decide today on Shabbos which Erev you're going to use to go to the Chacham, and then say that Limafreya, this is what your Erev was yesterday? Rashi here explains that the case is when you have a Chacham that's coming from a place, it's on one side of the city, but you have, he could be coming, let's say he's coming from the Tzafin side of the city. And then he could be coming Tzafin, going towards Tzfeinis Mizrachis, or he could be coming from Tzafin, going towards Tzfeinis Ma'aravis. And they're very far from each other. And you don't know which route he's going to take. Is he going to take the fork in the road to the right or to the left? And that's what you don't know yet. The Chacham didn't arrive yet. And tomorrow you're going to decide. So how could you decide tomorrow regarding one Chacham that did not arrive yet if it's ein breida? Isn't it the same like the case of two Chachamim, one coming to Mizrach side and one coming to Ma'ariv side, and you're going to decide tomorrow where we say ein breida? And the answer that was given, V'amar Rabbi Yochanan explained, Keshekvar ba Chacham. The case that it said that you have one Chacham and you don't know where you're going to be going, the case really is that he had come already before Shabbos. So from before Shabbos, it's clear already which Erev you're going to be using. Could be you don't know about it yet, you only find out about it tomorrow, but the Chacham already arrived either to Mizrach or to Ma'ariv before Shabbos, and therefore you don't have to rely on the concept of Breida. You don't have to clarify tomorrow regarding the Erev yesterday where you put it, because the Chacham already arrived before Shabbos. That's why in that case, you can decide, you'll find out tomorrow and you'll use that Erev. Whereas where you have a Chacham coming on one side and on the other side, and you're going to decide tomorrow which Erev you want to use, that's a problem. There you're relying on Breida to decide on Shabbos and then to create the Erev retroactively yesterday, that you can't do. So here, this is the case where I see the hashtem. So now here, this is the source where I see that Rabbi Yehuda holds ein breida. That in this case, by the aid of tchumen, you can't use this concept of breida to retroactively apply this. So this is the pshat also, benegay to what we learned before regarding the shayfaris that were placed in the Beis HaMikdash, the money that they put into the shayfaris. They did not want to have a shayfar for money brought for the kinei chayva, because in there was also karbanas chatos, and if someone's going to die, then everything gets mixed in there, and you can't bring anything anymore. You can't just take out one and say that now we retroactively clarify that it belongs to that person that died. So this is the source of Rav Yehuda's opinion. So the Gemara now goes back to our Mishnah regarding the blood that was placed inside the Heichel. Let's see. So now that we conclude that Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is ein breida, but however, to write on the shayfris exactly what each box, what the money is for, that would be acceptable. I could rely on that. That's not an issue. And like you see, Rabbi Yehuda himself had 13 shayfris in the Beis HaMikdash, and he relied on writing on it. So if so, coming back to our Mishnah, Yuma Kippurim, on Yom Kippur as well, Nami, Nave today, why don't we make 2 stands inside the Heichel for the blood of the par and the blood of the soil, v'nichtav alayu, and let's write on each stand what it's for. And we can rely on that the Kohen Gadol won't get confused. So why does Rabbi Yehuda say in the Mishnah that there's only one stand that we use for the par and the soil in order not to confuse them? So the Gemara answers, Mishum Chulshe, the Kohen Gadol, Yom Kippur is different. Because on Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol works very hard and he's fasting. So therefore, the weakness of the Kohen Gadol, lava daite. He may not pay attention, even if it's written there, and he may get confused. And the Gemara proves this point. If you're not going to say so, beloy ksivanami, even without writing anything. High nofish, the high zutter. The blood of the par of a bull is much more blood than the blood of a goat, a much smaller animal. So without writing, you could see the difference between this blood and that blood. So why would the Kohen Gadol get confused? Now, if you'll argue and say, no, maybe they're the same amount of blood. Maybe when he receives the blood of the par, he doesn't take all the blood of the par. But for Rav Yehuda said, Hashaychit, when you shech the par on Yom Kippur, tzarech sheyekabel es kol damishal par. You have to receive all of the blood of the par that comes out by the shechita. Shenemar ves kol damapar yishbach yisayid hamizbeach. You take all the blood of the par, kol damapar. So it's not the same amount of blood. The par is much more blood than the soil. So what's the issue? How's the kohen going to get confused? Now, maybe you'll argue and say, Dilma mishtapach minei. Maybe what would happen here is that the blood of the par spills. So you don't have yes, you did receive all the blood, but some of it spilled, and now it's the equal amount of blood to the sa'ir, and therefore the Kohen Gadol could get confused. But still, the Kohen Gadol shouldn't get confused because high chiver, the high sumek, the color of the blood of a par and of the sa'ir is not the same. One is lighter, and one is darker. One is more redder. So it's not the same color of blood, so you can clearly see the difference between them. So what's the answer? Why are we concerned that the Kohen Gadol would get confused? Ela mishum chulshu the Kohen Gadol. The reason is because the Kohen Gadol is weak and therefore lava daite might not pay enough attention to this. So chanami, so here as well regarding having 2 stands, mishum chulshu the Kohen Gadol lava daite. Because of the weakness of the Kohen Gadol, we don't want to place 2 stands there. So therefore there's one stand and he takes the blood of the par, puts it down, and then he takes off the blood of the par and puts the blood of the soil on so he doesn't get confused with both of them. Gemara brings an incident that happened. Ahu, the Nochis, Kamei Rove. There was someone that was davening for the Yamud in front of Rove on Yom Kippur. And Omar, when in the Nusach that he said, like the minig is, as we do today, we say the whole Avodah of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur in the davening of Musaf. So he said, Yotza, the Kohen Gadol came out to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, Vihi nichoi al kan sheni shebeheichel. And he placed down the blood of the soil on a second stand in the Heichel. And then he continued saying, Not al dama par. He took off from the stand the blood of the par, and v'niach dama soir. And he exchanged the stand and he placed over there on this stand the blood of the soir. So now Amalei, Rava told him, the nusach that you're saying doesn't follow either opinion. Chade kerabanon. One part of what you said is like the Rabbanon. He began saying that there's a kan sheni, there are 2 different stands there. And the chade kerab Yehuda. And then the continuation of his statement follows what Rabbi Yehuda said. That there's only one stand, and only when he takes off the blood of the par does he put down the blood of the soil on the same stand. So therefore he said, Eime, rather say, he niach damasor. First he put down the blood of the soil on the second stand, and then v'not al dama par, and he took the blood of the par. That's the right nusach to say it. Going back to the Mishnah, it said, V'hiza mimenu ala pareiches keneged orem mibachutz. So now in the heichal, you take this blood and you spray first from the par and then from the soil as well towards the pareiches on the outside. Again, achas l'mayla v'sheva l'mata. So Tana Rabbanan and Abraisi we learned that because it says in the pasuk v'chein yaseh la'oil mayit, that this you do the same in the oil mayit. What is this pasuk saying? Kishem shemazel lefnai v'lefnim. Just like you spray the blood inside. Achas l'mayla shevel l'mato kach mazel beheichel. Same is also done in the heichel. Ma lefnai v'lefnim. Just like inside. Achas l'mayla v'shevel l'mato midama par. You spray it from the blood of the par. Kach mazel beheichel. The same you also spray in the heichel towards the pereiches. The same number. Achas l'mayla v'shevel l'mato. Now, just like it's done from the blood of the sa'ir, this amount, the same you spray from the blood of the sa'ir in the heichal towards the pareiches, achas lamayla v'sheva lamata. Now the Gemara continues, the Braiser concludes, explaining the continuation of the pasuk where it says v'chein yase la'oyel mayid, and the pasuk there concludes and says ha'sheichen itam b'toich tumaisam. So what does this mean? The Eibusha dwells amongst Yidden even when they're not pure. Afile b'shas shehein tmeim, even in the times that Yidden are tamei and they have avedis and it's Yom Kippur and the Eibusha has to be meichel them. Shchine imam. The Shchine is with the Yidden. That's what it means. Asheichen itam here. Amalei hahu mine l'Rab Chanina. There was a min and a pikairis that said to Rab Chanina as follows: Hashte. Now, when you're in Galus, you definitely are Tomei. The Eibusha sent you into Galus, and the Shekhinah does not dwell amongst you, and you're definitely Tomei. The Chsiv, it says in the Pasuk, this is a Pasuk in Eicha, where it speaks about the Churban, Tumasa Bishuleha. Her Tumah, comparing Yidden to a Nida, and she has her Tumah on the seams of her garments, like the blood that's seen, the Tumah that's seen on her garments. So to Yidden compared to a Nida, which is separated from the Eibusha, their husband. So Rab Chanina answered him, no. Come and let's see Maksiv Bu. What does it say regarding Yidden? Hashaychin ita. The Eibusha dwells amongst Yidden b'toich tumasam, in the time when they're impure. Which means afile bizman shein tmeim. Even in a time when Yidden are impure, Shchine shruya b'neya. Nevertheless, the Shchine dwells amongst them. That's including even in the time of Galus. So as the Marsha explains, that the pshat in the Gemara here is, just like regarding a nida, even if she's separated from her husband, but nevertheless they're living together in the same room, in the same house, and so too, even in the time of Galus, the Eibusha dwells amongst the Yidden b'toich tumaisam.